Xiao finds himself being beaten up for being a Rizzler by a bunch of jealous hooligans who are accusing him of stealing their boss's girl named Shen Yao. But before they can permanently change his face, he leaps into the water ready to meet his demise. However, he finds a super cube at the bottom of the water that gives him a cheat system, making him overpowered in real life. Ever since he was a little boy, people knew Xiao as the cool kid, until one day he cried in front of everyone, so they started making fun of him. His school friend, who is Shen Yao, saw him sulking outside after school, so she gave him some words of encouragement before patching up his wounds. Some days passed, and while she and Xiao were having a studying session, she received a phone call from an unknown caller telling her to escape because some questionable people have come to collect her. She finds herself still in the library, but in a different realm surrounded by men in suits, while all the other students seem to have disappeared. The mystery man on the phone guides her to a room where she is saved and teleported to his location. At this point, the girl is unconscious in his arms while he makes a run for it. He is pursued by the men who almost take him out with an energy gun, but he dodges with ease. The mystery man lands and places Shen Yao on the floor with a special watch that puts up a protective field around her. He then leaps down to engage with the bad men using his amazing agility and powers to take them out one by one. The men in black refuse to give up, so the fight takes to the sky, where he defeats 3 of them, leaving only one. The one left levitates an entire building apartment to launch at the mystery man while they both float in the air. But the savior breaks the building up into cubes before launching it at the bad guy and then teleporting him into a special dimension. Meanwhile, the watch that was protecting Shen Yao moves backwards, and she finds herself back in the library asleep. Xiao wakes her up, and they continue with their studying. But the watch she was given is seen on the table. After some years pass by, Xiao is getting his ass whooped because Shen Yao finally confessed her feelings to him while they were chilling with friends. A guy named Sun Jun, who is the leader of the North City gang and an admirer of Shen Yao, heard about this, so he decided to teach Xiao a lesson with fists. His underlings beat up Xiao near a water bridge for stealing his girl. Sun Jun FaceTimes Shen Yao using Xiao's phone to show her the consequences of other men getting involved with her. The girl has no feelings for the hooligan, and it turns out that Sun Jun is someone who actually pesters Shen Yao like a weirdo stalker. She screams in the background for them to let Xiao go while they beat him up. Xiao refuses to acknowledge that Sun Jun deserves a girl like Shen Yao, so he headbutts one of the guys and leaps into the water to escape. The leader runs over the edge in disbelief, but then drops Xiao's phone into the water. They start to panic and scream for him to stop playing around and emerge from the water. Meanwhile, Xiao sinks in deeper and deeper, thinking how much of a useless loser he is for not being able to protect the girl he loves. While in his despair, ready for death to snatch his ass,
Gotcha, bitch.
He spots a shining object at the bottom, so he goes to investigate and sees a cube. But when he picks it up, the cube enters him and begins to burn up his body. He suddenly finds himself inside a cosmic cube, so he thinks he has been captured by aliens. A voice addresses him, informing him that he can teleport himself outside of the water within a 15-meter radius centered around the cube. But before Xiao can process what is happening, he is teleported right above the water in the air. He panics for a moment, thinking that he will fall to his death. However, he floats instead. He notices the hooligans looking for him. Sun Jun yells, saying that no one is going home until they find Xiao. Sun Jun feels a presence and looks up, but he sees nothing because Xiao has been teleported to one of his classrooms. He is very confused and asks himself many questions, but he is freaked out when a voice only he can hear tells him that it is inside of him. He is transported to his room before he is spotted by a guard. After cleaning himself up, he gets a phone call from Shen Yao, who is worried since she saw him fall into the water. She thought he was dead and is glad that he is safe and well in his room. She suggests that they should report this to the police because Sun Jun and his backup dancers have taken it too far this time. But Xiao tells her to chill for now and not to worry. He tells her to get some sleep since it is late before cutting the call. He didn't tell her what really happened and doesn't think anyone would even believe him if he told them. Now that he is alone, the cube begins conversation with him, so he demands to know what is going on. A light glows from within him, and the cube comes out of his body before Xiao is sent inside of it. When inside, he complains about the pain of the process on entering the cube. It informs him that now that it has a secure connection with his body, he has been appointed as the user of a special artifact known as the Herodric Cube, which is the ultimate universe system. It explains that although its physical manifestation in the world is only a tiny little cube, inside is quite vast. Xiao wants to know why it is helping him, so it responds saying that it is there to aid him in achieving his wish of being the king of the world. Xiao decides to practice his teleportation skills, but his energy has depleted, so the cube lets him know that there will be a 1-minute interval before he can utilize that skill again. He sits at a rooftop and asks the cube how he can precisely choose where to spontaneously relocate himself. It tells him that he needs to utilize a skill known as microwave radiation, which will help him sense everything within the teleportation field. It advises him not to rely on his eyes, but should instead use his core. The guy gives it a try and can sense and see every single detail within the radius. He is returned to the cube and falls to his knees from expending too much energy after overusing his teleportation and sensory abilities. He soon collapses from absolute exhaustion, so the cube sends him back to his room to rest. Xiao notes that using this power isn't easy on his body. He looks to his side and sees the box next to him, so he freaks out wondering where it came from. The box notifies him that it continuously consumes his energy while occupying his body, so to save what small energy he has left, it has temporarily exited its host, because if Xiao passes away, the cube will also disappear. Xiao just cannot believe that he is now a superhuman. The guy goes on the internet to see if he would be able to find any information regarding a super system, but he finds nothing. He asks the system who created it, but it doesn't know. He is a bit frustrated with the lack of answers about his situation, but he becomes cheerful when Shen Yao texts him for them to have lunch together. He remembers that as long as Sun Jun and his gang are around, he will find it difficult to protect Shen Yao. In his efforts to get stronger, he asks the cube how he can increase his energy levels and gain enough power using his newfound abilities. The cube tells him that all he needs to do is find and absorb energy gems to get stronger. The system has an inbuilt automatic leveling system which increases his power. Although regular stones have energy to aid in his leveling up, the increase in strength is so incremental that it wouldn't aid in the type of might he is looking to achieve. The cube notifies him that for him to be able to unleash his ultimate abilities, he needs to obtain special gems. It scans the house and brings his attention to his mother's diamond ring and his father's prismatite stone as examples of what don't contain energy force. However, it spots a gem in the garden downstairs that contains a decent amount of energy, so Xiao prepares himself and heads down to do some digging. He remembers the cube's reason for helping him, but Xiao has no interest in being the king of the world. All he aims to do is to gain enough power to protect Shen Yao. Xiao uses his microwave ability to scan the garden, and he spots it glowing right next to a tree. After digging it up, he is not so impressed with it. The cube confirms that although it is a basic gem, it can be used as an upgrade. It instructs him to enter the space cube and feed the gem into the mouth of the system. Electrical energy begins to pulsate around him. He then starts to glow up. The basic gem has added 2 points to his strength and increased his endurance by 1 point. All of this translates to real life, so his combat abilities have also received a boost. Xiao wakes up late the next morning, still exhausted from all the antics the previous night. He rushes to school and is scolded by Shen Yao for hanging up the phone on her yesterday. His friends make fun of her for confessing her feelings while they were hanging out, but their laughter is halted when Sun Jun and his posse come into the class looking for the Rizzler. They ruffle up some poor kid before asking for the whereabouts of Xiao. The guy has hidden himself behind a book from the gang, but Sun Jun seems to have spotted him and makes his way to him. Xiao asks the system if the power-up he received yesterday is enough to handle the hooligans. The cube responds by saying that his combat power level is 22, while the average combat level of the gang is 5. Shen Yao gets up and tells Sun Jun to leave them alone, but the gang leader is so deluded that he thinks Xiao is using her to protect himself like a coward. But she tells him to leave right away because Xiao is a real man. Xiao stands up and tells her to leave it all to him. Sun Jun becomes irritated by the sight of him, so he grabs the guy's shirt to ruffle him up. However, Xiao stands his ground and tightly holds the leader's hand. Sun Jun cannot believe how much stronger Xiao has become. Fortunately, the teacher enters and puts an end to their squabbling. The leader whispers to the lad to meet him at the basketball court later at 5 p.m. if he doesn't want Shen Yao to be involved in this. They leave the classroom, and the leader waits in the equipment room annoyed by what Xiao did to him in front of everyone. The time comes and Xiao the Rizzler enters the indoor basketball court to meet 13 members of the North City gang. Their leader orders them to close the doors because he doesn't intend on allowing the Rizzler to escape today. Looking at the situation, the system notifies him that he has a 20% chance of winning if they all fight him together. Sun Jun confronts him and says that all he wants Xiao to do is promise that he will stop seeing Shen Yao. He also wants the lad to kneel and apologize. However, Xiao aggravates him by calling him out on not being a good role model for his underlings. Since he doesn't even want to fight one-on-one, he even adds more source when he tells the hooligan that he went easy on him earlier that morning in class. At this point, Sun Jun is furious, and it looks like Xiao's plan is working. But one of the gang members from the back comes to the front and tells his master not to waste his time with trash, so he offers to fight against Xiao. It turns out that that guy is the strongest fighter in the group, but the cube informs Xiao not to be afraid because the guy's combat level is only 10. The bald man begins the duel by throwing a basketball which Xiao dodges. Baldy then swings many more punches, but they are all dodged and evaded. Meanwhile, Shen Yao senses that something is wrong because she calls Xiao, but he doesn't pick up, so she contacts the school superiors. Back at the court, the two men are still fighting, but the bald man has used too much of his energy. His frustration of not being able to land a hit increases, so he charges in, but Xiao catches his foot and lands a punch to the face before throwing him off to the side like trash, which knocks Baldy out. The gang cannot believe their eyes and question how this is even possible. They start to panic now that their strongest was easily defeated. Xiao calls out for the next opponent, but Sun Jun laughs out loud because his intention now is for them all to attack at once. The cube informs him that his new possibility of winning has increased to 30% now that Baldy has been taken care of. The gang chant and prepare to jump Xiao like the spineless cowards they are. They move forward and begin their assault, but Xiao is able to keep up thanks to the help of the system. He has beaten 2 of them for now, and since they are playing dirty, he decides to take a page out of their book. He approaches one of them and kicks him in the family jewels before launching him in the air using his foot. Sun Jun understands the importance of dealing with Xiao immediately, so he urges his men to go all out. Xiao utilizes the entirety of the court to get the upper hand, but they manage to land a few hits on him due to their overwhelming numbers. He gets up and is vexed by their unfair advantage, so he hands them a masterful beatdown. He grabs one of them by the legs and spins the guy around, and then throws him into the face of Sun Jun. By the time the leader recovers, he sees that Xiao has already taken out all of his men. It was at that moment he knew he messed with the wrong guy. Fear is written all over his face when Xiao begins to approach him. The system alerts Xiao that he is exhausted so he wouldn't be able to fight anymore. Sun Jun doesn't know this, so he screams in fear with snot running down his nose, begging Xiao not to approach him. The lights suddenly come on, and a rival gang from the south emerge, making fun of Sun Jun and his North City gang for being weak for losing against a single rookie. The leader of the South City gang, named Huan, tells Sun Jun to leave the position of being boss of the city to him because Sun Jun is too weak to undertake that role. Xiao has had enough of the chatting and just wants to warn Sun Jun never to bother Shen Yao ever again. But Huan is offended that he opened his mouth and sees this as a good opportunity to show the leader of the North City gang how to properly distribute a beatdown. The system informs Xiao that he is in no position to fight, so it tells him to make a run for it. Huan and his gang chase him down. Since Xiao's cube is in the house and not inside of him, he cannot teleport outside the radius, so the system guides him to the edge of the teleportation zone where he teleports before they get him. Now that Xiao knows his range, he turns the lights off and uses his abilities to ambush them. By the time the lights come back on, the members of Huan's group have also been defeated. Sun Jun just looks on in disbelief and wonders if Xiao is still a human. People outside the gym door begin to bang on it, ordering those inside to open it up. Shen Yao has arrived with the higher-ups because she believes Xiao is trapped inside and might be in danger. Before they can open it, Xiao has an idea of how he can get out of this situation. He sees Sun Jun trying to escape, so he tells the hooligan to hold up. Sun Jun gets on his knees and aggressively bashes his face on the floor, begging for forgiveness. Xiao agrees to spare him if he promises to admit his faults to the administrators and turn over a new leaf. He also warns him to never bother Shen Yao ever again. When the door opens, they see the hooligan holding Xiao, and he pretends to punch him on the face to make it look like Sun Jun had a huge gang fight in the gym, while Xiao was an innocent passerby who got caught in the beef. After that ordeal, Xiao understands his limits and knows that he must obtain more gems so that he can be strong enough to protect the people he loves. So with that in mind, he embarks on trying to locate gems, but most of them in his city either belong to other people or they are too expensive for him to buy. Xiao then decides he will go on an adventure to the mountains near his home to look for the special stones. He even bought treasure hunting equipment to make the hunt easier, but he soon finds out that it will be a lot more difficult when some of the gems he has located are within places he cannot possibly access. He becomes frustrated when the final one he spots is 15 meters underground since he cannot dig that deep. However, the system tells him that where the gem is located is actually hollow, so he should be able to teleport inside. But when Xiao tries to teleport to the place of the stone, He is unable to do so. The cube alerts him that if a space is completely sealed without a minimum gap of at least 1 centimeter in diameter, he wouldn't be able to teleport inside. Xiao thinks hard, so he walks to a body of water and believes that if there is a gap inside, then some of the water will seep into the cave. He stands on the surface of the water and uses his microwave radiation to locate the opening, which allows him to teleport into the cave. He takes a few steps in front of him towards the gem's location, but the passageway to them is completely blocked, so he cannot teleport inside. In this moment, he feels defeated. However, a gentle breeze hits him, so he knows that there is a gap somewhere. So he uses the same technique to find the opening, and then teleports to the final destination of the gems. Unfortunately for him, the stones are dangling from the ceiling, so he ties himself to a rock to stop himself from falling into the water when trying to retrieve it. He can only use teleportation a number of times, therefore this rope method is his best bet of collecting all 12 gems to avoid experiencing death. While picking them, one of it falls into the water. He uses his microwave radiation to find out where it landed, but he instead senses a huge snake behind him. At his current level, there is no way for him to win, and when the monster attacks, he backs up over the edge, which results in him falling along with the snake. Although the rope stopped him from plunging into the water, it soon snaps and lands him inside of it. The monster wastes no time and goes straight for the attack, but Xiao manages to partially fend it off with his shovel. The snake is relentless and keeps on attacking, so Xiao teleports himself inside the cube to avoid death. Since he only managed to collect 11 out of the 12 stones, the system informs him that he is able to synthesize 3 gems to create a higher level gem. It enlightens him that there are 3 levels to the gems. These are elementary, intermediate, and advanced level. Elementary gems only increase attributes by a little. However, advanced level gems gives an incredible boost to attributes, and they even have the chance of unlocking special powers. Xiao is so excited to hear this, so he tells the cube to synthesize the gems. The system accepts his request and informs him that it will take 100 hours to get advanced level gems. Xiao is devastated to hear this, but the cube advises him to synthesize and then absorb the remaining 2 so that he can level up to defeat the giant snake. After the process of absorbing the 2 stones is completed, Xiao teleports out and is easily able to defeat the snake thanks to his increase in speed and spiritual attributes. Now that he has beaten it, he retrieves the final gem, which is also an elementary level stone, so he decides to absorb that one too. All the while, Sun Jun and Huan seem to have found some common ground in their defeat to Xiao, so they go to drink their sorrows away and plan to take revenge for what Xiao did to them. That brings the episode to an end.